So, welcome to another Thursday on the Pagan Perspective. I'm Yaki, your host, and this week we've been talking about the Book of Shadows or journaling. So, let me read the question to you. As always, it's posted below, and the topic is Book of Shadows. My main question is, do you think that it is better to write in it by hand than on the computer, and why? And the second part of the question is it kind of a witch's diary or part of a tradition of grimoires, excuse me? Is it necessary or recommended to write in my own Book of Shadows? What should be in there? Is it creative individual project of every single witch or coven? What do you think about more than one Book of Shadows for one witch? So this question seems to me like it's aimed a little bit more at certain Wiccan traditions or traditions that use Books of Shadows. I do not personally use a Book of Shadow, or at least I don't call it that. I do quite a bit of journaling. I keep a dream journal. I keep, if I'm doing some sort of important big project in my life, like a success journal, I've kept lots of, lab notebooks or field notebooks for classes, things like that, and to me those are similar concepts to what I understand the idea of a Book of Shadows is. So as far as I understand, different traditions have different approaches to Books of Shadows. The question about do you think that it is better to write in it by hand or on the computer is of course going to depend on, are you in a coven? Are you studying with someone in particular, or is this something you're doing on your own? If it is on your own, I think it would be what is most comfortable for you. I don't think that there's anything inherently better about writing by hand or anything like that. In fact, interestingly, I think that at least in this country, in the United States, my generation and those younger generations, a lot of times we're more comfortable writing on the computer. I can type way faster than I can write by hand. My handwriting isn't great. In fact, I can text faster than I can write by hand. So it's something that I'm comfortable with. A disadvantage is that it's a lot easier to lose a digital file than a physical thing, than a book that one has written in. Depending on what programs you have, it's harder to draw if you want to sketch something, or depending on what you're using it for. If you're just writing down little notes, who knows, it might be a good format for you. So my answer to that is, it depends on you. If you're working with a group that has a specific way of doing it, you might want to consider trying it for what their reasons are. If you're on your own, see what works, what feels good for you. Is it kind of a witch's diary or part of a long tradition? So depends on what you consider long. Again, it's not part of my tradition, so I don't really have too much exposure to it. In terms of it being part of a long, as in many centuries, a tradition, I'm very skeptical of that, simply because of literacy rates. If you're talking about long over the past century, past few decades, maybe more possible, I don't know. But again, not my tradition. So is it like a diary? I tend to think of them as journals, and to some extent sort of like a lab notebook for your spells. But since I don't do a lot of spell work, it isn't something that I really have use for. But it sounds to me like, looking at what some people have done on YouTube when they show their Book of Shadows, if they're comfortable doing that, they have information written out, and they have, I did this ritual, and I did these steps, and then I felt this way, that sort of thing. Basically, I think it could be whatever works for you. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of journaling. I think it can be an incredibly useful tool. In terms of having more than one, I don't see why not. I also don't see why, but that really depends on the individual situation. So I guess this is another one of these weeks of saying, hey, it really depends on what works for you. That's one of the things that I think is really great about some of the neo-pagan or pagan practices and beliefs is that you can really make it work for you. So, okay, I hope everyone's having a great week, and take care.